Welcome, one and all. My name is Anna Lempriere, and I am a wayfinder. I work for the Cornwall Memory Cafe Network, supporting carers and people living with dementia to access services, make referrals, and really help them find a way to get more support. This is part of Disability Cornwall, and we've decided to create this podcast interviewing experts and people with lived experience on dementia to be able to share all sorts of interesting and informative and supportive information. So sit back and enjoy, and also share the podcast with your friends. It's relaxed and inclusive and welcoming, and thank you for listening. Wow, it is a great pleasure to be here today with the Promas team, Jenny and Bernie. We're going to interview you. My name's Anna. I work for the Cornwall Memory Cafe Network, and Promas is an immensely informative, educational, I think it's a charity, I'm going to learn all about it today, that I refer, when I go to memory cafes, I'm always talking about Promas and saying, from my perspective as a wayfinder, I support people living with dementia and their carers to get more support in all sorts of ways. And I always say that Promas not only is a sort of educational learning space for carers and professionals, but also it's a networking space where you might meet people that might support you on your journey as well. So that's all that I know. And I'm going to hand it over now to you both, to the experts, to tell us more, to tell the listeners more about who you are and what you do. So yeah, first of all, I'm going to hand it to Bernie and ask, could you introduce yourself and tell us what you do within Promas, and then Jenny, and then tell us the bigger picture of what Promas is, and then I'll have many more questions after that.
Okay, well, hi, I'm Bernie. I'm the co-director of Promas Caring for People. It's Promas, not Promas, because it's a Cornish word. So that we chose that, we chose that deliberately. My role, along with Jenny, is we run the business together, but we pretty much do whatever's needed. So we run courses. I specifically run the one-to-one coaching and mentoring on the phone. So Promas serves to support unpaid carers in Cornwall, any unpaid carer in Cornwall that's 18 plus. We cover the whole county as best we can. We run face-to-face courses. There are a couple of courses we do online for people who can't attend the face-to-face. What we discovered during COVID was obviously all the face-to-face got stopped. So we started doing some telephone training, which has proved to be very popular with people who can't leave their cared for. So I do that as well. Wow. We also run some monthly activities, that are free social activities for carers all around the county. So Jenny and I both host some of those. What else can I tell you?
Well, I'd like to leave a little bit for me, because that's the problem with letting Bernie go first. I then have nothing to say.
Thank you, Bernie.
Okay, so I'm Jenny, the other director, and I think Bernie's kind of covered the ground quite well. We also have, we'll get into it in a bit more detail, but we do also have 2 online courses. So we're really aware in what we do. A lot of it is face-to-face. So as Bernie said, we've tried to be more diverse and do things online, on the telephone, and various ways of supporting carers, especially when they can't leave their cared for.
Yeah. So my head is full of questions. First of all, then let's go right back to the beginning. Why Promas? So I'm so glad I can say it correctly now. Can you tell us what that means, what that means, and what your, how it was born and what your philosophy is? Perhaps let's.
Okay. So we chose the word Promas because it means promise or undertaking in Cornish. We're a Cornish CIC, so we're a not-for-profit community interest company. And I think how it was born, in simplistic terms, was I worked abroad in New Zealand for a long time, and they used a family model of care, and I got introduced to the benefits of working with unpaid carers. So I went out there allegedly for a year, but ended up staying a lot longer. And when I came back home, I said to them, if I ever had an opportunity to do something with unpaid carers, I would take it and use that as a model. Jenny and I met working for another organisation, and we decided after chatting about it that we would apply for I think it was £10,000 Awards for All to pilot it. We had a lot of support from Cornwall Council, from lots of other agencies. So we ran 4 courses in a year. We could have filled them 10 times over.
Wow. And
then we started doing a bit of research. The council kept supporting us with little bits of money, and then we went for gold and applied for a Reaching Communities grant. Which
and at
took
that
a year.
time, and at that time, didn't we? We then converted into a CIC because we did do this work previous. So we've been doing it a long time. Well, over 12 years, I'd say.
Yeah, it must be nearly 13, I think now.
Yeah,
so
we've
but
been
the CIC is 10 years old now.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to we don't get into this because it's not about us, but 95% of the organisation. So there's us 3 with Matt, our admin, but we have about 8 or 9 bank tutors, and about 95% of us are or have been carers ourselves.
Wow.
Which I think is really important because we do have an understanding of the role of a carer. Not to say that every single role isn't different, it is, but we have that understanding and have learned throughout the years, you know, what can support carers and where perhaps carers are challenged in looking after their own well-being.
And one of the things we didn't mention at the beginning, which is also important, is that for years we've known that carers, some carers, particularly caring for someone with dementia, can't leave them for long periods of time. So we have been trying to think of ways to get money to support people. So we finally have established that from the carer service and the ICB partnership. So we now run also dementia courses for carers and they're cared for. Brilliant. Which are looked after by Memory Matters in a different room. So we've run 3 so far, and they've been incredibly successful. And I'm going to plug the next one, which is in July in Hale. So we're hoping to get lots of people on that. We have a maximum of 8 people. So it would be great to fill them all.
And this is think it's really a great new.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really new. We've been wanting this for years and years, and it's just finding the funding, because obviously you're paying double for everything. So, but we can now offer any dementia carers can bring their care for with them, which is we're really excited, and it is fairly new. So fingers crossed.
And we're doing that in partnership with the fabulous Memory Matters, which is great.
Amazing. And so I'm thinking I can contact Hale Memory Cafe if you haven't already, and also Carbis Bay Memory Cafe.
That would be great.
To let them know if you let me know the date at the end, we can put it in the notes to this show. So what I think has come through for me is I had no idea that Promise, what a beautiful name, that you didn't just, I thought you just specialised in supporting carers who were supporting people living with dementia, but actually you're supporting carers. Yeah, so that's fascinating to know. And that you have this counselling, coaching, support line that people can reach out to and talk to you and get emotional, psychological, all sorts of support and signposting, I imagine. And then now, more recently, you've sort of seen that, like you're saying, carers are struggling to get away and leave their loved ones. So you've now set up and run a few really successful sessions where both people can come, both can benefit. And I was just one more thing before I hand it back to you. It's just so lovely to have a face to your organisation, Promise, because again, it felt, I don't know, I just sort of didn't realise how human and how person-centered you are. And yes, really exciting, really exciting.
We try hard, don't we? We do try hard.
We do.
And, you know, we're always working with carers to find out what they want next. So, you know, we've done quite a few new things this year. Like sleep workshops, yoga. What else have we done that's new? We brought in golf starts next year. So not only do we do our kind of
coastal, we're doing another joint partnership with Coastal Walking as well. So that's great.
Yeah, with Views.
That's starting soon.
What we found out is that we have our core courses that really sort of look at people's well-being and especially their mental health with coping strategies and stress and caring for carers. But we've also, you know, we've put on a lot more, how do you call them, recreational things like beach pottery and walking and yoga and things like that.
That sounds amazing.
So like I said, we've had a massive amount of support from the community. We've got a brilliant partnership with Leech Pottery. They have they will have run 3 courses for carers for us this year. They did the same last year with the Coastal, you know, walking as well with Memory Matters. It's been really, really good the way that people have supported us. I think that's really important to say, because I think one of the things we always say to people when we're begging for money, particularly to businesses, is that they reckon now, they said that last year, that 1 in 4 of us will become an unpaid carer. Carers UK have actually said they think that will be 2 out of 4 in 2030. And when you think about that, how many people become a carer every day, it's incredibly stressful. So I always say to people, the census shows that on average there are 64,000 unpaid carers in Cornwall, but that's just the ones we know about. I think that figure is probably a lot higher because some people don't recognise that they're an unpaid carer.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean that's a huge subject. That is a huge subject, isn't it? And what I want to do now then is just take us into what people would expect because this is for the Cornwall Memory Cafe Network, all the cafes, all the memory cafes, and reaching out to those people to say, you know, I spoke to someone the other day that said, you know, my mum has cared for people all her life. You know, she's in her 80s. Why would she need to come and do, because I mentioned Promas. And it's really interesting, that mindset, because it's like, well, you might actually meet really lovely people who are going through similar to you. You might pick up some tips, but you might get some emotional support. And yes, if you learn something, that's amazing. So if I was to ask you, maybe Jenny, just to say could you describe what one of your dementia training sessions is like?
So going back first to what you said, and to address that, as carers, sometimes we are on what I call like a hamster wheel. So we carry on doing the same thing every day, and we can't often see a different way of being. And we get used to that. And it's we can't see the wood for the trees or the trees for the wood. I never know which way around that is. So what our courses tend to do, because we're not emotionally involved in that caring role, we can see things from a very different perspective. So things that become habits that aren't particularly healthy for us, we can actually point those out to carers who might not recognise them. And we tend to find that a lot of carers normalise stress. So being a carer is stressful, and then they just say that is life, that's the way it is. But as we all know, that stress is not healthy and it's not good for us. So I think all our courses, and especially the dementia one, will look at things around dementia that we might not realise are to do with dementia. Number one, that's one thing that we will look at. So people often think, well, they're being annoying, they're being irritating, they always do this, and it's the illness. So it's bringing awareness into what the signs and symptoms are. That's only one part of it. We also look at grief. So grief is a big part of dementia, and I won't get, you know, there's lots of different types of grief, but grief is a big part. So we will look at grief, and we'll look at the type of carer you are and what the things that you do on that course, Bunny. It's a 2-day course. So,
so when we look at things like the symptoms, instead of just talking about the symptoms, what we talk about is if the person you're caring for is behaving in this way, these are some helpful ways to respond. So I think that is the most important, because one of the things that people ask all the time is, what shall I do? It's really annoying if someone repeats the same thing over and over again. Someone is attached to a particular bit of clothing, they don't want to change their clothing. So what we do is give them hands-on ideas about techniques that work.
Yeah,
We
that sounds
also
brilliant.
get them to look at doing a contingency plan, because a lot of people don't have a contingency plan. So what would you do if you fell ill as the carer? So having something like that thought about. And we also look at stress, ways of managing stress and coping strategies. And as Jenny said, a big part of the course is the grief, because I think people often don't realize how much they're grieving. So we've had people who have a wide range of emotions. And I think it's a very supportive environment, because everyone who's there is experiencing the same thing. There's masses of peer support. And the feedback we've had has been how helpful it's been in people's caring role, that it's helped them to continue to stay well and to manage their situations differently.
Sounds incredible.
Also, yeah, and there's another really important bit where we look at challenges that people might be facing in their caring role when you care for someone with dementia, and we do go through a model that you can use which looks at what the trigger is and various other points, and actually what could be done differently, because sometimes when you're in that role you just can't think of anything different. So coming together as carers who might suggest, well, have you tried this, have you tried that, you know, various things, and actually looking at why somebody might behave like that and what you could do differently to change the outcome, the consequences of that. So it's a really good course, and I have to say that all our courses, although we touch on, say, the symptoms, they are really aimed at supporting carers.
So let's just imagine then, paint me the scenario. How would somebody from a memory cafe, if I went out to Hale and say, come on, this is happening in Hale, be brave, let's go on the course, your loved one is going to be taken care of in the same space, just in a different room, they're going to have memory matters, do all sorts of wonderful cognitive stuff, they're going to have a lovely time while you're going to be doing this. How can they apply?
They can either email us or phone us for an application form. So there are 2 application forms, one from Memory Matters for the cared for, the other one from us for the carer. Once we get the completed application forms, we confirm their place on the course, and then that's it. They turn up on the day.
Will phone us, email us, we'll post it, and actually, if you go on our website, you can also apply online.
Yeah.
Or if they're not computer savvy, they can take your number, ring you up, and do it over the phone.
Or we can post it out. Yeah, we can print it off and post it out for them.
Okay, and then they arrive on the day. You're going to greet them. They're going to get a cup of tea and a biscuit, I hope.
Yep, of course.
Yeah,
I'll be there.
It's worth mentioning that, you know, because we do come back together for lunch, so we all have lunch together, which is really important, and break the day up and see how each other's doing. So we do stop and have lunch together and then go our separate ways again after lunch.
Wow, and that is all a free service for people.
Yeah,
free. What could be better? It's all free.
I know. So the next one is when? What is the date for the next one?
It's in Hale.
Yeah, it's July.
Yeah,
I know it's July.
I will tell you after the last one.
And so Bernie, can the 3rd of July. Okay, we'll put all of this in. So Bernie, what about professionals? Because I'm sure I've done a Promas training online, but I might not have done.
No, maybe I don't think you would have done. No. We have done some work with professionals to increase carer awareness, but we haven't offered any online courses to professionals.
No. Okay.
But anyone who is a carer, has a caring role, can have free access to our online courses in Cornwall.
That is amazing. So can you think of anything else that the listeners might need to know? Anything else you can think of? I
think the thing I would say is going into a group of people that you don't know is always stressful, but know that we will be friendly, welcoming, inclusive, answer any questions that people need, and no one has to talk about anything they don't want to. It's purely around their own needs. I think the biggest gain will be it will reduce the carer stress, and it will increase understanding of dementia and the person with dementia, their unmet needs, because sometimes obviously with dementia they can't express that, so we just offer a different alternative about how best to meet those. And in all the years we've been doing it, we've never had one carer that it hasn't benefited in a variety of ways.
So
Looking
we
at our
always round up.
evaluations, I'm saying, yeah.
So we'll
Wow.
always round up. We know it isn't you come to a course and off you go. It's kind of you come to a course and you take from it some actions that you're going to put into place. And I think as Promas as a whole, any carer, whether you're a dementia carer or you care for someone else, can come to any of our courses.
Yeah.
You're not, if you're a dementia carer, you don't just come to the dementia ones. We have so many different activities and so many other courses. Well, you'll meet other carers. So you're not just stuck to the couple of dementia courses that we have.
And what's happened is people have met on courses and established really good friendship groups.
Absolutely.
Which has been a real
I've
bonus.
recognised that myself as I've been, you connect more and more, and you end up seeing the same people sort of going, and they're saying, oh, well, we met that person there, and they formed bonds and connections. And that's the thing that you're saying, is that so much it can be very lonely being a carer and isolating.
I think it's very isolating. And I think sometimes when you're doing it, you feel like you're the only one. And I think the amount of times, because we always start with an introduction, and people have said, I thought I was the only one that felt like that. So I think it's a very healthy, safe environment for people.
I mean, because let's face it, no one actually applied for a job to be a carer, did they, for their loved ones? We a lot of the time it's where we find ourselves, and it can be sudden and unexpected. It can be a long sort of journey into it, but it's not something I think that anybody would actually go out and apply for and pick if they were, because it's 24/7, 7 days a week. So, we're really aware of that, there's a lot of support out there for the cared for, obviously, because they're the ones that are unwell. But when it comes to carers, they're kind of like, we tend to find that they are further down that list of needs, and carers tend to give up a lot of things that they used to do. Their social circles shrinks due to their caring role. And really it's about us is opening that back up again. What else can you do differently?
Wow. So it sounds to me like it is an incredible, warm, loving, inclusive, informative community that you create, where you can help people not to feel alone, and you can support people in learning new skills, supporting them, helping them to feel like they aren't going mad, that they're sane with all of this as well. And the next one is in Hale on the 3rd of July, but you're running them 2 or 3 times a year, 3 or 4 times a year
we've got another 3. Yeah, we've got another 3 different courses booked in over between now and February.
Okay, so people can find you on the website.
Yeah, which is www.promas.co.uk.
Amazing, and thank you so much for your time. I feel like I know so much more that I can go and tell all these people in the cafes and anyone that's listening to be courageous, even though it's that uncomfortable thing for some to go into a new environment. It sounds like,
and I think the other thing I was going to mention, it's also good for the cared for, because what the carers always worry about is that they're the only people that can look after their cared for properly. And I think what some of the comments that we've had when we run these is carers have been really shocked at how happy their cared for has been during that day. So it's encouraged people to think about some day provision, to take risks with getting other people in, and to free up time for themselves, which I think is really important.
So it's that encouragement as well.
To highlight the dementia and the cared for, those are the only courses that we run where you can bring your cared for with you. They're on our website. So just be aware, anyone out there, that any other course they choose to do, they'll have to do that without their cared for.
That's fine. That's brilliant. Thank you both so much. So
thanks for inviting us.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to meeting you one day in the flesh. And thank you both so much.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
This video was produced by Discover Voices, part of Disability Cornwall and Isles of Scilly. To check out all of our content, simply search Discover Voices on YouTube.